So after months of research, our team has come to one somewhat controversial, yet very profound conclusion. And that is, I hate to say it, but you're all spoiled. Now, hold on. Hear me out here, hear me out. See, we're all spoiled too. We've become so accustomed to being able to walk into our local supermarket just assuming that there's going to be an abundance of fresh produce readily available for us to purchase. But what happens in the future when that's no longer the case? What happens when you have to worry not only about how much produce you'll find when you go to the market, but whether you'll be able to find what you're looking for at all? See, we have a growing problem on our hands, and that is that we have a growing problem on our hands. There's currently 7.3 billion people living on this earth. By the year 2050, that number will have jumped to over 9.7 billion. As it currently stands, 1 in 8 people already go hungry across the world each and every day. And if we don't significantly increase our current crop yield, by the year 2050, we will be facing a 70% gap in food production versus what we will need to sustain ourselves here on Earth. You add to that the increasing concern over deforestation, the increasing environmental footprint left by our traditional farming operations, as well as the shrinking amount of arable farmland and water supply, and suddenly, solving for our food scarcity issue seems like a rather daunting task. But what if I told you that we could offer a solution? And what if I told you that not only did that solution help solve for our food scarcity issue, but that it also provided a unique business opportunity for you to differentiate yourself from your competitors? Would I have your attention then? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Matt Messer from Smart & Final, and I'm proud to introduce you to the group of the FoodTure. Joining me here on stage today is Sergio Gonzalez from Northgate Gonzalez Markets, Mazine Shaman from Bristol Farms and Lazy Acres Markets, Megan Wicks from Fry's Food and Drug Stores, Larry Del Rio from Dean Foods, and Nick Gooden from Mondelez International. And we're here to talk to you about vertical farming. Vertical farming combines the latest scientific research with advancements in technology that allows for us to grow crops in an indoor, highly controlled environment that gives consistent crop yield 365 days a year. Because these crops can be grown inside buildings, we can locate these buildings near manufacturing plants, distribution centers, or in or near densely populated urban areas where the product can be nearest to the end user. This not only shortens the supply chain, but helps to reduce shrink in that the product is at its freshest days and oftentimes weeks before it could get there with traditional farming operations. But more importantly than all that, vertical farming allows you to offer your customer the freshest, most nutritious, and most highly differentiated product out there on the market today. Because of advancements in technology over the past few years in regards to water and lighting, vertical farming operations startup costs have now come down to the point that they are now not only viable, but profitable. And because of this, there are several highly motivated entrepreneurs that are eager to invest in this business model. And quite frankly, you need to be one of them. Now, we're not suggesting that you go out tomorrow and buy a vertical farm, or even that you open up your pocketbook and start writing checks that you hadn't budgeted for already. The fact is that you're already buying fresh organic produce for your customers. It's what's on trend and what they are demanding. We're simply asking that you give your commitment to buy from current vertical farming operations. Now, you may even decide in the future that your business model dictates that you would get in on a joint venture with a current vertical farmer. But for right now, the initial commitment to buy will allow them to scale their business model to profitable size, thus allowing you, whether manufacturer or retailer, to reap the benefits of this oncoming vertical farming revolution. Now, we're obviously excited about what vertical farming can bring to the table. But to understand where this technology can take our industry in the future, we need to first start by explaining what a vertical farming operation of today looks like. So here to help us out with that is Megan.
So at its simplest form, vertical farm cultivates plants by using upwards or vertical space rather than traditional farming that has to grow outwards or use horizontal space. Dr. Despommier helped bring vertical farming mainstream, and his ultimate concept of a vertical farm would be large sky rises located in the hearts of urban areas. And each story would hold a different crop, but the building would be self-sustained and have enough production capabilities of feeding entire populations. Now, with the vertical farms that you're going to see today, they're more like warehouses filled of stacked rows of leafy greens from ceiling to floor, or floor to ceiling, excuse me. But the biggest difference between traditional farming and vertical farming is that vertical farming is all done indoors with the use of LED lights. This means you have a 24-hour production cycle, and also you're no longer at the limit or mercy of Mother Nature, which means you could grow fruit and veggies virtually in any climate or region across the world. Now, vertical farming is a blend of traditional farming techniques and technology. And although we're still developing the technology today, they are already starting to alter the light spectrums and nutritional content to give you very consistent produce, but also enhance the flavor profiles, the fragrances, and textures as well. And it's ultimately something that your customers are looking for. But because they are constantly monitoring this product, they're able to efficiently use their natural resources compared to traditional farming. But as a business, your vertical farms are going to provide produce that's local in its truest sense. Rather than getting product shipped in from a couple states away, you could get it within a couple blocks. It's also organic, again, what your customers are looking for. But vertical farming virtually eliminates the need of seasonality. So although you could get strawberries throughout any time of the year, we all know they taste its best during the summer because that's its season. Well, with vertical farming, you no longer have any seasons, so you could get your delicious strawberries during the dead of winter. So just imagine what your produce departments could look like with the amount of variety that you could have throughout the entire year, making you a destination shop for your customers. Now let's take a look at what vertical farms are like today. So this was just a glimpse of what vertical farms are capable of today. So just imagine having one of these by your distribution centers or also by your manufacturing plants. You could get the freshest produce exactly when you need it. And now Sergio is going to discuss why we need vertical farming.
The popular 1960s cartoon, The Jetsons, featured technologies that were far advanced than they had been before. In The Jetsons, we were exposed to drones, robots, smartwatches, and even 3D food printers. Within 50 years, not only would these technologies be relevant, but they would have the power to transform entire industries. The future of food production is complicated. And although we know and acknowledge that vertical farms may seem far-fetched and not very feasible, we are confident through our research and our learning that not only is it viable, but there is a need for vertical farming. Now I'm going to talk about some of the changes in farming. Only 3 generations ago, 40% of the total US population lived on farmland. Today, only 1% of the entire US population lives on farmland. We are more distant than we ever have been from our food source. And while traditional farming has allowed food to be affordable and in large scale, the increased awareness of its negative impacts continue to shift perceptions. We have to understand that this is a problem. This is a very difficult situation that we are in. Now, by 2050, it is expected that of the 9.7 billion global population, 6 billion will live in urban scenarios. Now, when we factor these 2 points, how are we going to feed large urban scenarios with so little space? We have to think how we're going to repurpose ghost malls, empty retail spaces, and even rooftops. Now let's talk about some of the advantages of resources. Vertical farms provide a closed environment that allows the precise use of resources, no more or no less. Water in this type of environment is in a closed environment and allows it to be recycled and reused, achieving 70 to 95% less water than traditional farming. Since there is no soil in vertical farms, the efficient use of minerals and nutrients are not washed away. This creates a great opportunity to efficiently use all of our resources. Now, I would like for you guys to imagine a rooftop at one of your stores and a vertical farm there. This eliminates 2 of the largest inefficiencies of food production. Number 1 is the 1,000-mile average it takes food to reach our consumers' hands, and the worst of all, the 30 to 40% food waste catastrophe that it takes food to get all the way through our supply chain. Vertical farming provides a great solution, and now Mazin will provide us some nutritional benefits of vertically farmed produce.
Improving food safety. It's unfortunate that the healthiest produce we have today available has the highest rate in foodborne illnesses, such as spinach, kale, arugula, watercress. What we know for sure is that there is over 9 million foodborne illnesses every year in the United States. And of those, 23% are related to leafy greens. On average, there are 500 food recalls every year in the United States. How many times have you experienced food recalls in your stores due to leafy greens? Through controlled vertical farming and in conjunction with photocatalytic reactor technology to rid the air of any pathogens, this would be a great solution because the toxins are found in outdoor farming environments due to contaminated water. Let's talk about some of the benefits of vertical farming and produce. Not only will you have a safer, cleaner product that is pathogen-free, GMO-free, pesticide-free, but it'll have a better texture and flavor. Imagine having consistent, seasonal produce year-round to offer your customers. That's a huge idea. Fresh greens are propelling the market forward. From 2010 to 2015, the category had a 17% increase, and it's projected to increase another 13% over the next few years. The general consumer is changing their eating habits into more plant-based diets. That makes it more evident that we need to change our farming paradigm and boost consumer confidence. According to a 2016 Mintel study on 2,000 millennials, 61% of them said they would buy local first over organic. 46% of them said they would pay more for local and organic produce. 83% of them said they wanted clear nutritional labels and traceability. Imagine if you can offer your customers consistent, differentiated produce that's going to add value to your business. But is it profitable? Let's find out. Larry will talk about the possible profitability.
Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers. The U.S. vegetable industry is $26.2 billion, but does not include notable crops such as corn, soybean, and wheat. Over 50% of these producer revenues are actually coming out of 2 states, California and Florida. And lettuce is a 10.3% share, or $2.7 billion. So who's succeeding in vertical farms today? Spread Company in Japan built a vertical farm in 2007. This plant produces 21,000 heads of lettuce per day and distributes to 2,100 supermarkets nationwide. Its yields are 97%, and the average seed to harvest is 16 to 22 days. After 6 years of trial and error, their cultivation and production management systems were established. They achieved profitability by 2013 and now look to expand in operations to gain scale. So what's the investment cost and the ROI? In 2015, Spread Company announced new construction of techno farms. This is a $17 million investment, but includes automated technology to reduce labor by 50% and energy costs by 30%, while increasing daily throughput by 42% compared to its sister plant, 30,000 heads of lettuce per day. So what's the estimated return on investment? 7 to 9 years. Okay, I know what you're thinking, right? 7 to 9 years? But vertical farms are on the rise, and advancements in technology will only lower costs in the future. For example, we visited a local vertical farm in Irvine, California, called Urban Produce. This plant is 5,800 square feet, or an eighth of an acre. It produces the equivalent of 16 field acres of microgreens per year. Based on their current energy needs today and technology, they can install solar panels on the roof and become 100% energy self-sufficient. Furthermore, both companies discussed today are actually looking to license, patent, and franchise their business models both domestically and internationally. So we're excited to see vertical farms in its early stages and the benefits it provides. The two major headwinds is startup costs and energy costs. But as discussed today, vertical farms are taking on that challenge and are creating profitable commercial business entities. So think about how you purchase produce today and look for vertical farms to grow up in the future. Now, Nick will take us through the recap.
So we've covered a lot for you here today. Megan took you through what a vertical farm looks like and how it can offer consistent, local, and organic produce that tastes great 365 days a year. Sergio talked about why we need vertical farms and how current agricultural practices have a negative impact on both our climate and our resources, whether that be the fact that 70% of our fresh water goes towards agriculture, the consistent deforestation that occurs to create more farmland, the long distance that our food has to travel to reach its end consumer, or the high amount of waste that we experience. Mazen talked to you about the consumer trends and how consumers are looking for a safer, more nutritious, and sustainable product. It's something they are willing to pay for, and that creates a big business opportunity for you. And finally, Larry touched on the economics of vertical farming and gave you two examples with Spread and Urban Produce of vertical farming operations that are growing, continue to find efficiencies every day, and more importantly, are turning a profit. But what do we need from you when you leave here today? Ultimately, when you leave here today, whether you're a retailer or a manufacturer, we need a commitment from you to buy from your local vertical farming operation. Vertical farming is growing, and operations are going to continue to sprout up, no pun intended, across the country and world. A commitment to buy from you allows a consistent revenue stream for these vertical farmers that allows them to reinvest in their business, find more efficiencies, and ultimately make vertical farming more viable in the long term. But maybe when you leave here today, we've convinced you, as we are, that vertical farming can be even bigger for you. You may want to look into a joint venture opportunity in which would place the vertical farming operation near the facility that you need. The joint venture would mitigate the risk of you having to own that vertical farm and also allow you to benefit from the expertise of those vertical farmers. But it would put it near, if you're a retailer, your distribution facility, or if you're a manufacturer, near your manufacturing facility, allowing you to have more control over costly supply chain issues, such as transportation costs, the out-of-stock issues that occur consistently that frustrate us all, the waste that exists, or, as touched on earlier, the frustrating recalls that we all experience. As Matt touched on earlier, we have a growing problem. 9.7 billion people will be on this earth in 2050, and we have to find a way to feed them. While this is a problem, it also creates a significant business opportunity for you. Vertical farming is the FoodTure, and the time is now. We'd like to thank you for giving us your time to present something to you that we are all so passionate about, and would now like to open up the floor for any questions.
First of all, great presentation. And I visited Urban Produce, and I agree with what you're saying. Two things. You mentioned at the end, did you, in the in-stock and cost of goods differences, what did you come up with?
As far as how much the in-stocks would improve, or?
Correct.
Because you're able to react quicker, but also it being local, you're not impacted by the long distance. So if there's bad weather somewhere else in the country or even the world, that wouldn't impact you. We don't have a specific number of days, but it does give you more control because it's closer to your facility. And then as far as overall in stocks, because you're not going, the recalls would be reduced significantly, and you're not going to have those, it would set you up even better in the long term for that.
Thank you. Great presentation, guys. So my question is, does your research show any impacts to traditional farming, agricultural, or any expected reaction?
Yes, to go ahead and answer that, we don't look at this as an or, this is an and. As I had mentioned before, there's going to be a 70% gap in food production, so we're not looking to take jobs or take away the traditional farming operations. We're looking to add to that so that we can sustain ourselves here on Earth. So we can't predict what kind of backlash a farmer may potentially have, but the way that we look at it, we're all here to help one another. We're all here to continue to grow and continue to produce food so that we can all survive here on Earth.
I was just curious to know, do you have any indication as to consumer reaction? Is this marketed as, vertically farmed produce? And if so, does that trigger any kind of response one way or the other, or just neutral from consumers?
I would say ultimately it's not marketed as vertical. It is labeled as organic at this time. However, to your point, that could create some opportunity to educate people further on what vertical farming is. I know when we went into this, we didn't 100% understand what vertical farming is, but what it does do is allow you that safer, that nutritious product and a lot of flavor and a great tasting product because you're not having all the delayed time before it reaches that end consumer. So to that point, we would want to educate people further on what vertical farming it is and how and why it's good for them.